Hello, my friend. I know you're not here out of curiosity. You're here because something in you has been hurt. Perhaps you've been rejected. In love in your career or in a moment that made you question your own worth. I'm not here to teach you how to get over it quickly. I'm here to sit beside you and help you understand it more deeply. Because I believe some wounds only begin to heal when we're brave enough to face them with honesty and grace. In this video, I'll be sharing with you 21 lessons drawn from Stoic philosophy wisdom I've gathered after years of working with people who've been through a lot. People like you who are learning how to move forward, not just stronger, but calmer and more at peace. And if you're truly serious about your journey of growth and healing, I've created a free ebook just for you, Standing Strong After Loss. Stoic Lessons for Inner Peace. You can get it completely free just by watching the video till the end and following the instructions at the final part. But before we begin, I invite you to reflect on one question. If you were never rejected, would you still know what's truly meant for you? The answer might just appear in the lessons that follow. Lesson 1. You can't change others. You can only change yourself. Have you ever felt exhausted trying to change someone? Maybe it's your spouse, your adult child, or a colleague who constantly irritates you. You've tried everything, gentle advice, stern warnings. You thought, if I'm patient enough, sincere enough, they'll change. But what happened? They stayed the same. And you were the one left drained. I've been there. A friend of mine used to complain endlessly. My job is awful. The world is unfair. Nobody understands me. At first, I thought I'll help him see life in a positive light. I sent him books, motivational videos, spent hours listening and encouraging him. I believed that if I just tried hard enough, he would change. But after months, what did I realize? He didn't change. He became even more dependent on me, and I grew frustrated, feeling like a failure. One day, overwhelmed, I came across a line from Epictetus. You cannot control other people. You can only control your response. Those words cut through my confusion like a blade. Why was I trying to do the impossible? It's like trying to stop the rain from falling or command the wind to be still. You can't. And every time I tried to change someone, I was handing over control of my emotions to them. Stoic philosophy teaches one fundamental truth. Focus only on what is within your control. You cannot control someone else's thoughts, feelings, or actions. You can only control one thing yourself, and that is where real power lies. From that day, I changed my approach. I no longer carried the weight of fixing him. I listened when I could, but I stopped letting his story become my burden. I learned to say, I understand that this bothers you, but I believe you're strong enough to handle it. It sounds simple, but I felt an instant sense of relief. Have you noticed? Our suffering often comes not just from people being difficult, but from our expectation that they should behave the way we want. When those expectations break, we feel anger, disappointment, even despair. But if from the start we accept everyone has their own path, I'm not the architect of their life, we save ourselves a great deal of pain. Next time someone acts poorly, before reacting, pause and ask, do I really want to give them control over my emotions? The answer is almost always no. And in that moment, you reclaim your power. You stop being a puppet of other people's moods. You become the master of your own stage. Try this today. Think of someone you've been trying to change. Then ask yourself, how much lighter would I feel if I stopped this struggle and focused only on my own peace? Let that question sink in. Because sometimes the greatest freedom doesn't come from changing the world, but from letting go of what was never yours to control. Have you ever worn yourself out trying to fix someone? Share your thoughts. Below your story might be the key that helps someone else discover this truth. Peace begins with you. Lesson 2. Boundaries. The shield of inner peace. Have you ever felt drained from constantly trying to meet everyone's expectations? Some days you run from one demand to another, doing everything just to avoid upsetting someone. You smile, nod, and say yes, while inside you want to scream, "Enough." If you've ever felt that way, you're not alone. I've been there too. I remember a time in my life when people called me the helpful one because I was always willing to assist. Sounds nice, doesn't it? But in reality, I was like a container for everyone's requests. A colleague needed a last-minute report. I said yes. A friend texted, "Can you help me real quick?" I agreed. I thought, if I can help, why not? But one day I looked at my life. My own work was in chaos. My personal time was gone, and worst of all, I started resenting the very people I cared about just because they kept asking for more. Then came the breaking point. Sitting in my car after a long meeting, phone buzzing with yet another favor, my mind tight as a wound string, I asked myself, why have I allowed everyone to run my life except me? The answer was painful, but simple. I didn't know how to set boundaries. Stoicism teaches this truth. You cannot control what others demand from you, but you can control what you allow. And boundaries are the tool that guards your most precious possession, your peace. Understand this clearly. Boundaries are not selfishness. They are a sign of respect for yourself and for others. When you set boundaries, you're saying, here is the line that allows me to keep giving without losing myself. So how do you set them? Not with harsh words, not with guilt, just with clarity and calm. When someone asks for something you cannot give, you don't need a long excuse. Say it simply, gently. I understand this is important, but I can't take on more right now. Short, clear, without anger, without blame. And what if they get upset? Remember, their feelings are theirs. Your peace is yours. Never trade long-term serenity for short-term approval. Ask yourself this. How many times in your life have you said yes while your heart screamed, no? And if today you started saying no when necessary, how different would your life be? Think deeply about that. Because sometimes the greatest act of self-love is not giving everything, but saving a part of yourself for yourself. Lesson 3. Setting boundaries is easy. Keeping them is hard. Saying, I'm going to set boundaries sounds simple. Anyone can declare it. But holding those boundaries when others start testing them, that's the real challenge. Have you ever been in this situation? You promised yourself you'd say no to protect your time. But just a few days later, someone texts you, "Can you help me with this? It'll be quick." You pause for a moment. Then they add, "I honestly have no one else to ask." And just like that, you give in. The promise you made to yourself disappears. Does that sound familiar? I remember a woman in her 50s who once attended my class. She said, "After years, I finally had the courage to set a boundary with my adult son. I told him I wouldn't keep sending money for him to live off me anymore. I wanted him to take responsibility. But just a week later, he called crying, saying if I didn't help, he'd suffer terribly. I couldn't stand the guilt, and I sent him the money. Afterward, I felt like I'd destroyed everything I had worked so hard to build." Does that story sound familiar? This is where most people struggle. Setting the boundary is the first step, but keeping it is the real battle. Here's the truth. The moment you start saying no, someone won't like it. They'll try everything to pull you back into the role they've always known, the role that benefited them. And if you give in, they learn one thing: your words don't matter. From that point on, every effort to protect yourself becomes meaningless. Boundaries are like a fence. If you let someone remove just one plank, the whole fence will eventually collapse. That's why when you say, no, your actions must match your words. No anger, no drama, just consistency. People often ask me, but what if they get upset? My answer is always the same. They have the right to be upset. You have the right to protect your peace. Let them feel what they need to feel, and you do what you need to do. Next time you're tempted to break your boundary because of guilt, ask yourself, am I helping them grow or helping them stay dependent? Sometimes no is the greatest gift you can give both to them and to yourself. And if it feels hard to hold the line, remember this. The discipline you practice today builds the peace, you'll enjoy tomorrow. Lesson 4. Control what you can control. There's a simple truth most of us forget: we spend too much time trying to control what's beyond our reach. Think about it. Have you noticed this in yourself? You get upset because someone spoke harshly. You feel stressed because a coworker is careless. You burn with anger over a rude comment online. But pause for a moment and ask, do I actually control this? The answer almost always is no. I remember a conversation with a man in his 60s. He came to me frustrated. I'm losing my mind because my boss nitpicks everything. He drives me mad every single day. I asked, is your boss making you angry, or are you choosing anger? He went silent. Then I saw something change in his eyes, that flicker of realization. This is exactly what Stoicism reminds us every day. We do not suffer from events themselves, but from our reaction to them. You can't control what others think, say, or do. But you can always control how you respond. That is the one power no one can take away from you. Picture this. You stand before two doors. One leads to anger, arguments, and bitterness. The other opens to calm, clarity, and inner freedom. Every time someone provokes you, they're just ringing the bell. But you decide which door to open. So next time you hear an insult, stop for 3 seconds and ask, is this really worth losing my peace over? 9 times out of 10, the answer will be no. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, if something small can throw you off balance, the fault is not in that thing, it's in your choice. This is not meant to shame you, it's meant to give your power back. So, starting today, practice this simple habit. When you face something you cannot control, tell yourself, this does not belong to me. I will only hold on to what is mine to control. Believe me, just remembering this will make life feel so much lighter. Now ask yourself, how many things are stealing your peace simply because you're trying to hold what can't be held? And if you let go today, how different would your life feel? Lesson 5. Emotional detachment. Your shield against chaos. Have you ever experienced this? Someone says something hurtful and your whole day spirals downward. You carry that irritation from work to home, letting it seep into dinner, into conversations with loved ones. It's like they threw a piece of trash at you and you decided to hold on to it all day. I used to be that person. A single negative remark, often from someone I barely cared about, could occupy my thoughts for hours. Until one day I asked myself, why am I letting someone live rent-free in my head? That's when I discovered a powerful Stoic principle: emotional detachment. Not coldness, not numbness, but the ability to clearly separate what belongs to them and what belongs to me. Picture it this way: harsh words are like arrows. They only wound you if you open your chest to receive them. But if you wear armor made of calm and awareness, those arrows bounce off and fall to the ground. You still hear the words, but they don't pierce your soul. Here's a simple practice: the next time someone says something upsetting, don't react immediately. Pause. Ask yourself, is this emotion truly mine, or am I borrowing it from them? 9 times out of 10, you'll realize the anger isn't yours. It's theirs. They're carrying their stress, their insecurity, and they've just placed it at your door. You have the right not to open that door. Never forget. You can't stop people from throwing stones, but you can choose not to become the lake that absorbs them all. Let the stones fall to the ground. Keep your mind like a quiet room where you hold the key. Stoicism doesn't ask you to become a statue. It reminds you of this: others can make noise, but the silence within is your choice. So think about this. The last time someone ruined your peace, what was it truly worth? And if that day you had chosen not to let it touch your soul, how different would life have felt? Lesson 6. Emotional detachment. The advanced shield. Have you noticed that most of our frustration doesn't come from the event itself, but from how long we hold on to it? Someone says something harsh and you keep replaying it in your mind all day. A difficult coworker ruins your mood, and you bring that energy home, spilling it onto the people you love. It doesn't just steal your peace, it pollutes the very spaces meant to be your sanctuary. I've been there. Once a colleague criticized me in front of everyone. In that moment, I stayed silent. But in my mind, I replayed the scene 100 times, inventing comebacks, even though the meeting had long ended. The result, I got nothing done that afternoon. When I got home, I snapped at my son for asking an innocent question. And that night, I barely slept. The next morning, I read a line from Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. If someone does you wrong, remember, it is only an opinion. It becomes true only if you accept it. I paused on one word: accept. That's it. We're not hurt by the words themselves, but by the way we embrace them, letting them linger and dictate our emotions. Here's the truth. You can't stop people from throwing garbage at your doorstep, but you can refuse to open the door. That's emotional detachment, recognizing what belongs to someone else and refusing to make it yours. Try this exercise. The next time someone says something that stings, take a deep breath and ask yourself, is this feeling truly mine, or am I borrowing it from them? If it's not yours, let it go. Drop it like a dry leaf falling from a tree. Stoicism doesn't tell you to be numb. It reminds you that while others can rage, your inner peace remains your choice. So ask yourself, how many times have you let someone's words control your entire day? And what would change if next time you simply refused to carry them? Lesson 7. Keep your inner compass. The 4 Stoic virtues. Have you noticed how life sometimes feels like a storm? Outside is noise, anger, and injustice. And in those moments you ask yourself, how do I keep from being swept away? Stoic philosophy offers a clear answer. Hold on to your inner compass, a guide that always points you in the right direction no matter how chaotic the world becomes. That compass is made of 4 core virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. I remember a few years ago during a meeting I was sharply criticized for a minor mistake. My first instinct, defend myself, immediately explain why I wasn't at fault. But then I asked myself, if I react now, am I acting from emotion or reason? That question stopped me for just 3 seconds. But those 3 seconds changed everything. That was wisdom, the ability to see beyond the heat of the moment and choose what truly matters. I stayed silent, listened, and later calmly clarified things. The issue was resolved peacefully. Then comes justice. Even though the criticism was harsh, I tried to see their perspective. Maybe they were under pressure, maybe stressed by deadlines. I didn't need to repay sharpness with sharpness. Next is courage, not just the kind needed on battlefields or in grand gestures, but the courage to set boundaries, to speak truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Sometimes courage is simply saying, this is not acceptable, and standing firm. And finally, temperance, the strength to hold back impulsive reactions, to keep a small spark from becoming a wildfire. One careless word can ruin a relationship, a career opportunity, or an entire day of peace. These virtues are not lofty ideals. They are practical tools, a filter for every choice you make. Whenever you're about to act or react, ask yourself, is it wise? Wisdom? Is it fair to me and to others? Justice. Does it require courage? Courage. Is it guided by self-control? Temperance. Live by these questions, and you'll rarely find yourself regretting your decisions. So reflect on this. Tomorrow, if you face a tense situation, which compass point will guide you, and which virtue do you need to strengthen? Most wisdom, justice, courage, or temperance? Lesson 8. Self-care is not selfish. Have you ever felt guilty for taking time for yourself? Maybe you planned to sit down with a book, but then told yourself, I still have so much to do. My family needs me. And so you keep running, caring for everyone, except yourself. I once met a woman in her 50s during a group session. She said, I don't have time for myself. I have a husband, kids, a job. Someone always needs me. I asked, "So what do you do when you feel exhausted?" She gave a sad smile. "I just endure it." Sound familiar? We grew up believing that loving ourselves is selfish, but the truth is the opposite. If you don't take care of yourself, you won't have the strength to care for anyone else. Stoicism teaches that you only master life when you master yourself. And to master yourself, you need energy, clarity, and mental strength. No one can live wisely with a chaotic mind and a worn-out body. Self-care doesn't mean expensive trips or luxury shopping. It can be as simple as 15 minutes of quiet reading in the morning, 10 deep breaths before a busy day, or a short walk in the park. These moments refill your cup, because if your cup is empty, you have nothing to pour for others. I remember an elderly man telling me, "I spent my whole life giving to my family and my work, but I never cared for myself." When my health collapsed, I realized you can't give from an empty place. That line stayed with me. Ask yourself, when was the last time I did something just for me? If you can't remember, that's a clear sign you've been neglecting the most important person in your life. You. Starting today, stop seeing self-care as a luxury. See it as the foundation for everything good you want to create. Your peace doesn't just benefit you, it touches everyone you love. So let me ask you this. If tomorrow you gave yourself just 30 minutes to read, to sit in stillness, or simply to breathe, how would that change your mood? How might it change your life? Lesson 9. Some relationships need to end. Saying goodbye is never easy, especially to someone who once meant the world to you. We grow up believing that letting go is selfish, that we must hold on to what was once close. But here's a truth we all must face. Not everyone you love is good for your peace. I once worked with a man in his 60s who carried a heavy burden for years. He told me, "I have a friend from my youth. We've been through so much together. But now, every time we meet, I feel drained." He complains, criticizes everything, and never sees the good. I know this isn't healthy, but I can't let go. I'm afraid that cutting ties would make me a traitor to our past. I asked him one question. Are you holding on out of love or out of fear? Do you keep this bond because it moves you forward, or because the memory chains you to the past? He was silent for a long time. A day later, he texted me. I said goodbye. Not because I hate him, but because I want to protect the peace I have left in life. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If something no longer aligns with your nature, step away." Letting go does not betray the past. It honors the present and safeguards the future. When you walk away, you're not closing your heart. You're opening it to the light ahead. We fear endings because we confuse them with loss. But in truth, an ending often makes room for something better. Like clearing out an old room, you must let go of what's worn out to welcome what's new. The soul works the same way. So ask yourself, is there someone in your life who pulls you down instead of lifting you up? Someone who brings you more exhaustion than peace? If so, will you be brave enough to say, enough? Remember this, you owe no one the sacrifice of your peace. You only owe yourself a life worth living. Lesson 10. See difficult people as training partners. We've all wished at some point, if only I didn't have to deal with these annoying people. But the truth is, you can't avoid them. This world will always have selfish, angry, and drama-driven people. If your peace depends on them disappearing, you'll be disappointed for life. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote in Meditations, "Each morning remind yourself, today I will meet people who are rude, ungrateful, selfish. But they act this way because they do not know what is truly good." At first glance, this sounds negative, but it's not. It's preparation. When you expect the worst, you're not shocked by it. You don't get pulled into emotional chaos when it happens. Here's a different way to see it. Difficult people are your free personal trainers. They give you the chance to practice patience, calm, and wisdom. If you want to become stronger, how can you train without resistance? I remember a time when a colleague attacked me in a meeting. His words were sharp, designed to embarrass me. My instinct screamed, "Hit back now." But I paused, took a breath, and reminded myself, this is a test. This is my chance to show that I control my emotions, not the other way around. I stayed silent, took notes, and when it was my turn, I responded calmly. After the meeting, several people came to me and said, "You were incredibly composed." That day I learned something powerful. The greatest victory is not silencing your opponent, it's keeping your inner world quiet. Next time someone pushes your buttons, ask yourself, is this my enemy or my trainer? When you see them as training, anger turns into opportunity. You no longer feel attacked, you feel empowered. Stoicism doesn't make you emotionless, it makes you strong in silence. Others can shout, but you remain still. That's real power. So reflect on this. Tomorrow, when someone frustrates you, will you let them control your emotions, or will you thank them silently for helping you become stronger? Lesson 11. Empathize, but don't sink with them. Have you ever met someone who made you feel sorry for them? They tell you about their pain, their unfair struggles, and your heart opens wide. You give them your time, your energy, even your sleep. But one day you realize you're exhausted. You feel like you've been pulled into their whirlpool of negativity. You understand them, but somehow you're losing yourself. I've been there. I had a friend who constantly complained, "I'm miserable because of my job, my family, this unfair world." At first I listened patiently. I gave advice, encouragement, and countless hours. I believed that if I was good enough, patient enough, he would change. But after months, nothing did. He remained stuck in negativity, and I became drained, irritated, even snapping at people I love. Then one day I came across a line from Marcus Aurelius, "Be ready to help, but never let your soul be dragged away." Those words hit me hard. I realized empathy doesn't mean drowning with them. It's like seeing someone struggling in deep water. You can throw them a rope, but if you jump in without knowing how to swim, you'll both sink. From that moment, I changed my approach. I still listened, but with limits. I said, "I understand this hurts, but I can't let this story consume my life." It wasn't easy. I felt guilty at first, but then I understood. You cannot save someone by destroying yourself. Stoicism teaches this vital truth. Empathy means understanding, not carrying their entire weight. You can offer a hand, but you must never let yourself be pulled under. Ask yourself today, is there someone in your life who is draining your energy, stealing your peace? Are you giving so much that you're running on empty? If so, will you find the courage to say, "Enough"? Because real compassion doesn't mean losing yourself, it means helping others while staying strong enough to keep standing. Lesson 12. Know when to ask for help. Have you ever told yourself, "I have to be strong. I'll handle this on my own"? We often believe that leaning on others is a sign of weakness. But here's the truth, holding everything inside, carrying all the pressure alone. That's the fastest road to burnout. I once worked with a man in his 60s who said, "I always thought asking for help was failure. So I carried everything, work, stress, family problems alone. Then I collapsed and ended up in the hospital." That's when I realized, I'm not a superhero. I'm just human. That image stuck with me. It reminded me of nature. A single tree standing in a storm can break, but an entire forest. It stands strong because the trees lean on each other, their roots intertwined. Humans are the same. We are stronger when we support one another. Stoicism doesn't teach you to live in isolation. It teaches you to know what's within your control and when you need help. Admitting that you can't do everything alone doesn't make you weak. In fact, it takes courage, the courage to say, "I can't carry this by myself. I need you." Maybe you're used to helping everyone else but struggle to reach out for yourself. If that sounds like you, try asking, if someone I love were in my situation, would I encourage them to seek support? If the answer is yes, then why not offer yourself the same grace? Asking for help is not giving up. It's choosing a smarter path forward. Whether it's a professional, a trusted friend, or a family member, sometimes one honest conversation can lift half the weight off your shoulders. Remember, you don't need to prove that you're invincible. Real strength isn't about enduring everything. It's about knowing when to let go of part of the burden so you don't break. Think about this. What are you silently carrying right now? And if today you had the courage to say, "I need help," how would that change your life? Lesson 13. Progress, not perfection. Have you ever promised yourself, "From today, I'll stay calm. I won't get angry anymore"? And then one small thing, a rude comment, someone cutting in line, sets you off. Afterward, you feel disappointed in yourself. You sigh and think, "I'll never change." Sound familiar? I've been there too. I remember once after a long day, I snapped at a colleague simply because he sent an email in the wrong format. In that moment, I thought, after all these years of studying Stoicism, and I'm still like this, I felt like a failure. But then I remembered a line from Seneca. No one becomes wise overnight, but each day they are a little less foolish than before. That is the nature of progress. It doesn't happen in a single miraculous leap. It happens through small, steady steps. You will still lose your temper sometimes. You will still have days when you fail to stay calm. That doesn't make you useless, it makes you human. What matters is not how many times you stumble, but what you learn each time you rise. I started changing my perspective. Instead of asking, "Why did I fail?" I began asking, "Where did I do better than yesterday? Maybe today." I paused for 3 seconds before reacting, rather than snapping instantly. That's a small victory. And if I keep collecting these small victories one day, I'll notice I'm completely different. Stoicism doesn't demand that you become a statue without emotion. It reminds you that self-mastery is a journey, not a destination, and that journey is built on tiny, persistent steps. Try this simple exercise. Each night, instead of listing your mistakes, write down one thing you did better than yesterday. Just one. Do this for a month and then look back. You'll see you haven't been standing still. So let me ask you, if starting today you stopped chasing perfection and started chasing progress, how much lighter would your life feel? Lesson 14. Choose the right people for your life. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Most of your peace or your chaos doesn't come from your job. It comes from the people you allow close to you. The people around you have more power to lift you up or drag you down than almost anything else in life. I once spoke with a man in his mid-50s who shared this with me. I always feel exhausted. Not because of work, but because of a few friends. Every time I see them, I come home in a terrible mood. They only talk about injustice, negativity, and complaints. I sit there nodding, forcing a smile, but inside I feel drained. So I asked, "Then why do you keep meeting them?" He gave a weak smile. "Because we've been friends for decades. If I walk away, I'm afraid I'll be alone." I understood him. We often hold on to old relationships because of good memories or loyalty. But here's the real question. Do these people still align with who you are today? If the answer is no, then courage, not guilt, is what you need. Stoicism doesn't teach you to cut everyone off and live in isolation. It teaches you to value those who make you better people, who respect your boundaries, who don't pull you into negativity, who don't make you feel small. Try this exercise. Look at the 5 people you spend the most time with. Do they make you stronger or more exhausted? More peaceful or more frustrated? This isn't a test of loyalty. It's a measure of the quality of your life. And if you notice someone constantly dragging you down, ask yourself, am I keeping this relationship out of love or out of fear, out of growth or out of habit? The answer will tell you what you need to do. Remember this. You can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends. And choosing the right companions is one of the most important decisions you will ever make. So think about this. If starting today, you surrounded yourself only with people who make you better, how much would your life change? Lesson 15. Don't lose yourself while protecting yourself. Setting boundaries is essential. But have you noticed something? In the process of protecting themselves, many people become the very thing they once hated. They build cold walls, lock their hearts, and in the end lose the softness that made them beautiful. I once worked with a woman in her 50s named Linda. She had been deeply hurt in a past relationship. After that experience, she told herself, "I'll never let anyone hurt me again. I'll become strong." And she kept that promise. She built strict boundaries. But 5 years later, when I met her again, she said through tears, "I'm safe, but I'm lonely. I built walls so high that no one can reach my heart anymore." Sound familiar? When someone wounds us, the natural response is to retreat to lock the door. But Stoicism reminds us of one vital principle: do not become like your enemy. If someone is harsh, you don't need to be harsh to protect yourself. If someone is cold, you don't need to turn your heart to stone. You can set boundaries and still keep your kindness, still stay open to what's good. Boundaries are not about becoming a fortress no one can approach. They're simply a door with a lock open to what nourishes you, closed to what poisons you. No anger, no bitterness, just clarity and calm. Remember, the goal isn't to win against others. The goal is to protect your peace without losing your best self. Because if you have to become cruel to feel safe, then pain has already won. Try imagining this. Tomorrow someone crosses your boundary. How can you respond in a way that protects you without sacrificing your calm or your kindness? If you can do that, you're not just strong, you're free. Now ask yourself, in the name of self-protection, have you been slowly locking your heart away? And if the answer is yes, what can you do today to open it again while still keeping yourself safe? Lesson 16. Understand but do not endure. You've probably heard someone say, just try to understand them. It sounds noble, doesn't it? But if misunderstood, this advice can turn you into a silent victim. I've fallen into that trap many times. Someone treated me poorly, and I told myself they must have their own pain. So I stayed quiet. I endured, and the result? They didn't change, but I grew exhausted and bitter. Then one day I read a line from Marcus Aurelius. Understand the nature of things, but do not let them destroy your peace. That was my wake-up call. Understanding does not mean tolerating harmful behavior. Understanding is for freeing your heart from resentment, not for granting others unlimited access to your boundaries. I once heard a story from a friend. I forgave my husband after he hurt me multiple times because I understood he had a difficult childhood. Sounds compassionate, right? But what happened? He kept repeating the behavior. Why? Because every time she forgave without consequence, she sent one message. You can hurt me and nothing will change. Understanding why someone acts poorly may calm your anger. But after you understand, you still need to act to protect yourself. You still need to set limits. That's not cruelty, it's clarity. Stoicism teaches a profound truth. You can remain kind without being naive. You can say, I understand your pain, but I will not let your pain become the reason to harm me. Ask yourself today, is there someone in your life you've been understanding to the point of enduring harm? If so, will you keep sacrificing your peace, or will you choose to protect it without losing your kindness? Lesson 17. Don't let the noise out there shatter the silence within. Have you noticed how loud the world is? Constant notifications, endless arguments on social media, office gossip. And even if you switch off every device, the noise lingers in your mind, pulling you into a whirlpool of worry and irritation. I've been there. Every morning, the first thing I did was grab my phone and scroll through a flood of negative news. Within minutes, my mood was wrecked. The day hadn't even started yet, I already felt drained by things completely outside my control. Then one day I came across these words from Marcus Aurelius. No one can take away your peace unless you allow it. It hit me. The problem wasn't that the world was noisy. The problem was that I had opened the door and invited all that noise in. I had willingly traded my inner calm for a stream of unsettling information. So I made one small change each morning. Instead of turning on my phone, I sat still for 10 minutes, just breathing or reading a few lines of philosophy. I became the gatekeeper of my own mind, deciding what could enter. And you know what happened? I felt calmer throughout the day. I reacted more slowly to chaos outside. Stoicism doesn't tell you to hide from the world. It teaches you how to build a quiet space within a place you control, even in the middle of a storm. You don't need to cover your ears, but you do need to choose which sounds deserve to stay and which should pass by like wind. Ask yourself today, how much noise are you willingly carrying into your soul each day? And if starting today, you only open the door to what truly matters, how different would your life feel? Lesson 18. Know when to stay silent. Have you ever found yourself in a pointless argument? Back and forth, voices rising, neither side truly listening. You walk away frustrated, thinking, I'll show them I'm right next time. But be honest after all. Did you feel any happier? I've been there. Once on social media, I saw someone post something completely wrong about a topic I knew well. I jumped in with a long response, determined to set the record straight. The debate dragged on for hours. In the end, I wasted half a day, felt mentally drained, and they didn't change their mind. That day, I learned a powerful truth. Sometimes silence is the strongest answer. Stoicism teaches us this. You don't need to react to everything. Not every fight is worth fighting. When someone attacks you with words, they're inviting you into their chaos. But you always have the power to decline. Silence is not weakness. It's the choice of someone who values peace over ego. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge against an insult is not to become like the one who insulted you." If you answer bitterness with bitterness, you're no longer yourself, you're just a mirror of their anger. So next time someone provokes you, pause and ask, is this worth losing my peace over? If the answer is no, walk away in silence. Your silence is not defeat, it's mastery. Imagine this. What if every time you faced provocation, you chose silence instead of a fight? How much lighter would your life feel? You'd realize you don't need the last word to prove your worth. Now ask yourself, are you wasting energy trying to win battles that don't matter? If you chose silence today, what precious thing would you protect? Lesson 19. Ask questions before you release emotions. Have you ever gotten so angry that you later regretted it? One impulsive outburst can damage a relationship, ruin an opportunity, or destroy the peace you spent years building. Why does this happen? Because we react before we think. We let emotions steer the ship instead of reason. I once coached a man in his 50s who confessed, "I have a quick temper. If my wife says something I don't like, I explode. Later, I feel awful. I love her, so why do I keep hurting the person I love most?" I asked him, "When you get angry, do you ever stop to ask yourself a question?" He shook his head. And that was the root of his problem. Stoicism gives us a golden rule: pause and ask before you react. When someone upsets you, don't dive straight into an emotional response. Give yourself 3 seconds and ask, is this really worth losing my peace over? I started using this in my own life. Once a driver cut me off in traffic. My blood boiled, my hand itched to slam the horn, but then I asked myself, if I honk and shout, what changes will I be happier? The answer was no. So I stayed quiet and kept driving. That sense of control felt far better than any honk ever could. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If a small thing can make you angry, the fault isn't in the thing, it's in you." Harsh, maybe, but it's liberating. Because once you realize you always have the power to choose your reaction, you become free in a way most people never experience. So starting today, practice this habit before reacting. Ask yourself 2 questions. Is this worth it? Will my reaction make things better? If the answer is no, let it go, because peace is always worth more than winning an argument. Now think about this. The last time you lost your temper, what would have changed if you paused for just 3 seconds and asked these questions? And if you started this habit tomorrow, how much lighter would your life feel? And as promised, you can now receive the free ebook Healing After Rejection, Stoic Wisdom for the Mature Soul. Click the link in the description to download it. It's a gift I've written from the heart for those brave enough to keep moving forward. If you found this video meaningful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. The journey isn't over, and we will meet again. Like old friends, the kind who have fallen and still choose to rise.